I get asked a question a lot about anxiety and fears that fighters have to overcome when they go into combat. And many people will give such a, in my opinion, false credibility or credit to this and think that that is the thing that separates fighters. Now, I don't totally disagree with that. I just think if you trace it back, it's for a different meaning. Many fighters come from a rough background, whether it was a rough neighborhood or a single parent home or fights and trouble in school. A lot of fighter stories are the same. I don't fully, I do agree. I don't fully agree that those rough backgrounds lead you into fighting. I believe that some of those rough backgrounds give you that ability to deal with anxiety and then go into combat, almost because combat is an equal form to what you're used to or a lesser form. Let me start with the lesser form. Brian Stann and Tim Kennedy. These guys could not have cared any less when Burt Watson came in the back and said, "We rolling, baby. It's time to make that walk." They were built differently, right? When you're Brian Stann and you have had to take on a tank and a missile launcher and grenades and countless rounds of M16s, when you're Tim Kennedy, who's being thrown out of airplanes with who knows how many bullets to go into enemy territory and who knows to take on how many enemies. It's a different deal. I used to be teammates with a gentleman named Brian Foster. And Foster was the same way. He was just as cool and calm and collected. And he was a good fighter, but he was a great competitor. And I just think those three guys, and I know they all have a military background, but I think I proved my point, or at least one that you'll be able to understand, that when you come from an environment that is more challenging, more stressful, more at stake, you're kind of coming down. You're coming down a notch. For most people, you're going up a notch. You versus another man, shirts off, world watching, prestige, money, lot of implications, dreams on the line. And when people argue that ability is what separates a combative fighter from a hobbyist or from a fan or somebody who just dreamed of doing it but never took that plunge, I don't know that that's the right comparison. I don't know that the rough upbringings is what led them into the gyms. I understand that that's a part of it. I understand you could even geographically look at some of the greater boxing gyms in the world. They come from Brooklyn. They come from Detroit, right? Parts of Michigan. I understand this. I don't deny that. What I'm offering to you is the side of the point that has never been brought up, that is what then allows them to go out and compete. That isn't wildly different from some of their upbringings or some of the tussles that they had to get in the neighborhood. Or maybe you got a tough brother and you got to get in a tussle right in your living room. But then going out there and competing and living with the result isn't the same anxiety and the same fear. I mean, look, these are all tools. It's no different than a saw or a shovel. If you use the saw correctly or you use the shovel correctly, you've got a really good tool there. If you drop the saw off of a building and it falls on somebody down below, you've got something very dangerous there. But fear and anxiety really are tools, and you can use them and they can help you. One thing that Randy Couture used to do, and I tried to do this because I heard this from Randy, it didn't work for me, but it helped Randy. Randy talked to somebody like in the medical field, like a doctor told Randy this, and then he believed it. Randy told me, so I believe it, even though it didn't work for me. I believe it to be true. Randy was talking about the chemical released in your brain for fear is the same chemical released in your brain when you're excited. You just get to choose, am I scared or am I excited? So before he would have his fights and he would get that chemical release, and it's a very real thing. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, it makes some guys cry. It makes some guys wilt. You've heard of fight or flight? Fight or flight is a very, very real thing. There is documented cases, just by example, where police officers have been in the line of duty, had to pull their weapons, got so scared, they threw their weapons. They literally threw their gun at the person and turned and ran. I mean, fight or flight is a very real thing, and you have to choose and you have to be controlled, and it's something that you have to practice. But the way Randy did it, and it led him to many world championships, 17 main events, over 2 different weight classes over a meaningful period of time. The way he did it is when he started to feel that thing, he would just tell himself, oh, I guess I'm excited. And it worked for him. I tried that many times. I can't tell you I had the same reaction, but there is a balance in there. And maybe that's something you can take with you.